Hi, I'm Zach Cusack, and welcome to Sales Business Magic. Today, I will be discussing the art of cold calling. Alright, so what is the textbook definition of cold calling? Cold calling is the marketing prospect of approaching prospective customers or clients, typically via telephone, by email, or through making a connection on a social network, who are not expecting such interaction. The word cold is used because the person receiving the call is not expecting a call or has not specifically asked to be contacted by a salesperson. It's pretty basic. The word cold calling is you're calling someone who is not expecting your phone call, but the purpose of the call is very important. Now let's cover that. So what is the purpose of cold calling? There's 4 key components that you want to focus on when you're cold calling. You want to quickly build rapport. You want to learn as much as possible about the client's core issues. You need to determine who's the gatekeeper and what their needs are. So when you're calling, who's answering the phone? That is your target client. That's their gatekeeper. And what needs do they have? What relationship can you develop with this person to help benefit their needs? And finally, the most important factor when you're cold calling is you want to get the appointment. Alright, so let's talk about some steps that you need to take prior to cold calling. So plan ahead. Before making your calls, make sure you do your research. Who will you be calling? When will you be placing your calls? These are the types of questions that you want answered prior to making your calls. So things you want to consider is, look for prospects who have a similar profile to your current clients. So whether it's you're working with a potential client who's a corporation and you're targeting their entities, or you're working and going after an individual client. You got to do your research and look for prospects who have similar profiles. It's important that you investigate before you call. Use Google and other search engines to help do your research on the business. Find out what their success, what their success stories are, and what helps set them apart from the competition, so you can create value for whatever it is you're pitching. The next step, which I believe is one of the most important steps, is that you want to make sure that next to each prospect, you note your current clients, their prospects' industries, their regions, their job classifications, and you gather as much data as possible prior to making your call and actually during the process of making the phone call. Because this is information that you can be used at a later date, so keeping a record of this is crucial to your success. Alright, the next step in the process is focus on building your script. So what you're doing when you build your script is focus on what you're going to say. Seek out a personal connection. Your research might reveal that you share the same alma mater, or have the same connections, or have past connections with a similar company, or the same company rather. You want to make sure that you write a brief script that's no more than 3 to 4 sentences. You want to keep it short when you're on the phone. This is not the time to hard sell, but rather this is the time to get a meeting. So an effective script, kind of touching on what I just mentioned, ask for the appointment only. You're not there. The purpose of the script is not to communicate substantive information as to what you're offering or what you're selling, but it's rather to win the right to actually sell to the prospect. So keep it brief on the phone. So remember, the next step, and when you're actually on the process of making the cold calls, what's important is you want to make sure that you get the information before you give it. So ask questions rather than immediately trying to sell. Learn about the prospect's business needs first so you can more effectively tailor your pitch. And then finally, people don't care about you. All they care about is what you can do for them. Remember, it's not about you and the tips of selling, it's about the client. Don't go in there and product dump and say you could do X, Y, and Z, but rather ask questions so you can get the information to understand how you can pitch your product and your service. Alright, now let's discuss something that's like milk and cookies with cold calling. Objections. You gotta be sure that you're ready to anticipate those, because every time you call, chances more than likely are that you're gonna have some sort of objection. So each time an objection materializes, you'll need to handle them appropriately. Then ask for the appointment. So let's talk about some common objections. No time, they're unavailable, it's a corporate decision, they work with another group, or simply there's no interest. You need to be able to prepare for those objections so that you have a response. Most objections are common to all sales situations. So you should have little or no trouble listening those out. The trick here is to practice handling objections until the response is automatic. So the most important part of handling objections is asking for the appointment. Remember, the most important purpose of cold calling is to get the appointment so you have the right to sell the person. Now, let's talk about something that seems small, but it's very crucial to your success in cold calling. So it's about getting positive and getting calling. The thing about cold calling and the thing that intimidates a lot of people is that when people say no after the first 5 to 10 calls, it gets in some people's head. The thing about cold calling is you need to persevere and you have to keep going. Stay positive. Attitude is everything. The offerings have value to the customer, and you should think of it this way. You're doing them a favor by giving them the time to call and set an appointment. So remember, confidence is key. We must have confidence in our ability to provide value. The confidence not only helps you communicate more effectively, but it provides the motivation that will drive you to actually sitting down and making the calls. Alright, now let's talk about leaving a message. So if you end up at a contact's voicemail system, don't despair. Leave a very brief message based on your calling script. However, rather than setting a time for an appointment, set a time that you'll be calling back on a certain date so that the client or the prospect client can expect that. But also make sure that during the message you say you would appreciate a call back. Use referrals in voicemails. So I spoke with X, and he or she suggested that we connect. And then finally, the next time you call, ask the admin or the gatekeeper if the contact is in, and if not, ask the gatekeeper when would be a good time to reach out to them. When would be a better time to call and connect. Alright, so handling the objections. So once you've got the script, once you've got the contact in line, execute the script. Don't read it, put it into your own words. Remember that you want to feel comfortable, and feeling comfortable projects confidence. Confidence is the key to selling and cold calling. In almost every case, you will get at least one and probably more objections. So anticipate those. Be ready. Be able to list those off as X, Y, and Z. This is why you present value, and you're able to anticipate those objections and continue to move forward. So since you've anticipated these objections, you should respond to them as necessary and then ask for the appointment again. Something that you want to kind of assume as well is a good, it's a method that I've employed through my time in cold calling is that, if you get 3 or more objections, I think it's fair to assume that the prospect is not going to meet with you. So thank the prospect and politely end the call. But remember, keep notes and data on this information so that you're not going back to this call and annoying the person, but rather, slowly but surely you're developing your brand and you're getting your name out there and you're getting in front of the right people. Alright, and the thing again that's about cold calling is it's about repeating the process. If you're determined to excel, commit to an hour a day attempting to achieve 2 appointments. If it takes 15 minutes to get the appointments, then you can quit early. But understand the value and objections that customers see. So remember, it's about get out of your chair and in front of a mirror and practice. Practice. Get a recorder. Use your cell phone. Use some sort of method so that you can hear what your voice sounds like when you're cold calling these individuals. Because remember, again, it's about getting an appointment, but also it's about getting on the phone and doing it. You got to put yourself out there. Because if you're not trying, if you're not attempting, then obviously you're not going to have the opportunity to excel and succeed. Now, something that's very important as well that I touched on is you must keep careful records. Because without these records, you're going to overlap and you're going to call people multiple times and you could start to annoy these gatekeepers. So make sure you keep records tracking who you called, when you called, and how many of those calls resulted in appointments. Measuring progress is instrumental in the growth of your business, but more importantly, it will give you a sense of accomplishment so that you can know, hey, you made 50 calls, you got 10 meetings. That's a great closure rate. So while a call might not result in an immediate sale, you can always get something positive out of it, even if it's just mere information about the company or the person. So make sure that you write everything down and you implement that information into your customer relationship management software, your CRM tools. Alright guys, now it's time to sell. So remember that nothing will ever be attempted if all possible objections must first be overcome. So let's get out there, let's get on the phone, and let's schedule some meetings. Alright guys, thanks for joining me, and until next time.